Make a start. Good to see so many of you have made it on a cold and dark Thursday evening, but that's the great thing about webinars, isn't it? We can all do it from the comfort of our own homes. We don't have to go out in the dark. And so brilliant. Okay, so I hope you've all had a great day, whatever you've been doing, and I'm going to make a start now, and we'll get some more people join us. We've got quite a few people booked on, and I can see people arriving all the time, but they'll have to catch up, because I like to make a start at the right time for people who are there on time, if that's okay for everybody. If at any point you want to ask me a question, just pop that in to the chat box, and I'll either answer it as I'm going along, or at the end, or in an email maybe later. Fantastic. Okay, so what are we going to do in the next 60 to 90 minutes? And I've booked a whole 90 minutes. I don't think we'll run that long, but certainly we've got 60 minutes. So what I'd like you to do is to keep an open mind. It may be that you have heard some of this stuff before. It may be that other people have told you the same sort of things I'm going to tell you. But what you've got to ask yourself is, are you actually doing it? We're talking about blogging tonight, so is your blog a success? If so, brilliant. Could you make it even more successful? Sorry, I'm just... Oh, I see. Okay, that's fine. So yes, so keep an open mind. You might have heard things before, but it's always good, I think, to hear things again sometimes, and it might get you inspired to take some action, and that's the key, is taking action. The other thing I'd like you to do is to stay focused, remove any distractions that you've got around, turn off Facebook, Twitter, and I know I'm terrible for doing that. It's not so much Facebook and Twitter, but emails might come in, or phone, but hopefully we've got a good 60 minutes to get this work done together. So what's my job? My job is to deliver great content for you, based on my research and experience. And you might think the next line is a bit strange, where I put speak English, because obviously I'm speaking English. But how many of you have ever spoken to somebody about internet stuff and it's gone straight over your head because they've spoken in geek? Can I see a raise of hands if that's the case? Yes, Lizzie's hand was straight up. Well done, Liz. Okay. Yes, Paul. Yep. Yeah, quite a few have had that experience. Absolutely. Well, what I aim to do, and hopefully do tend to do, is to speak English, so I can translate from geek into English for you. And then, if you've enjoyed what we've done tonight and you want to take things further, I'd like to give you the opportunity to work a bit more closely with me. So that's where we're coming from, if that's okay with everybody. So just a little bit about me. My company is called Just Ask Jean, which you've probably already guessed. And I started that company 3 years ago now, just over 3 years ago, when I was made redundant. And it's a long story, but I used to be, at one part in my career for quite a long time, a teacher and a trainer, and I taught people all about IT and all sorts of things, but had a lot to do with IT and technology. And also, as a bit of a hobby, because I am a borderline geek, I used to build people's websites for them. But the thing is, I used to do it for free, and when I set up my company, I thought, what can I do? And one of the things I knew I could already do was to build websites, so that's what I did. But I was fortunate in that I was made redundant over a long period, if you see what I mean, because it took them about 6 months to get it sorted, and I was effectively on gardening leave, so I was able to build up a client base, and I think that's quite a useful thing. So my skills are combining the technology aspect, and I spend a lot of time and a lot of money learning about how things work so that I can explain that to my clients, and that I can really translate from the geek into English. So I just wanted to share with you next what one of my clients says about me. And this is Sanjay Shah. Some of you may know Sanjay. Yeah, quite a few people are commenting that they know Sanjay as well. He's quite well known in the area, and he's known as the EQ expert, the emotional intelligence expert, and that's his website there, Sanjay Shah TV. And what has he said? I can thoroughly recommend Jean's courses to both newcomers and anyone familiar with social media. One day with her, and already, just 1 week later, my social media exposure has improved dramatically. And the next bit is the bit I really love, because this sums me up in a way that probably I couldn't or wouldn't have done. He's put, oh, and she's not a spotty 17-year-old geek that I can't relate to or understand. So if that's somebody you'd like to talk to, then I'm probably the person. Okay, so before we go any further into blogging, we better make sure we know what a blog is. So I've just made a table for you of what I consider to be the key points, the key differences between a blog and a traditional HTML static site. It's not that long ago that the internet changed, so that blogs and the internet changed, so it became more of a way that people themselves could publish materials, and that's where blogging came from. People were doing online diaries, and now they've developed into complete websites. You're probably familiar with it, but I just wanted to make sure that we understood the difference. So traditional static site, it was mostly unchanging, can be added to, but probably quite infrequently. For a business, the standard what you might call a brochure site, what's usually known as a brochure site. It was usually in the hands of a web developer, so you couldn't change it when you wanted to, and that's one of the common things that people come to me for, because they say, well, we've got this website and we don't know how to do anything with it, we can't do anything, and it costs us money every time we want to change it. And that's, I think, quite a lot of people's experience with old style websites. They're not interactive, you can't take comments, and not much changes. The technology has been the technology for years and years and years. There's very little that changes in that. But having said that, it's not all bad. Static sites, in their way, have their use, because they're less vulnerable to hacking, because the technology isn't changing. It isn't dynamic in the same way as a WordPress website would be. There's very little maintenance to a static site. So I think that the balance is in favour of blogs, but one thing you do need to be wary of is that they will need maintenance, and you need to be updating things. So as I put there, content is added too frequently. That is the whole point of a blog, and we'll talk about how frequently in a little while. And the point is that the power is in your hands. As the owner of that blog, you can change it as and when you want to. It's interactive, you can get comments, and there's all sorts of technology as well. So pretty much anything that you want a blog to do, it becomes a full-blown website. And I talk most of the time about WordPress blogs, because that's the one that I think is the really powerful blogging platform. But it does need to be vulnerable. So if I can give you one point from this slide, if you have got a blog and you're not backing it up and you're not maintaining it, then please do so. Just to tell you a little story, we've just taken over a big site with a big company, and it hadn't been maintained for about 10 months, I think. And I went in and there were 14 updates that were required. Now we're lucky that it hasn't been hacked and they didn't have a downtime because of that. So, excuse me, I'm just going to take a slurp of tea. So is that okay for everybody? Does everybody understand the difference between the two? Are there any questions there? Oh, I seem to have lost my question box. Let me just bring that back up. Okay. Fantastic. Yeah, somebody just asked me about whether WordPress is the only blogging platform. It's not. We'll come on to that in a second. Okay, so now we've got the definitions right. Why have you all come along to this webinar when you could be doing all sorts of other things to learn about blogging? Well, I'm guessing it's because of your business blog. Originally, blogs were more personal diaries. They were people who were interested in things, who had a passion in some subject maybe, and they wanted to share that with the world, and they used the power of blogging to do that. But these days, more and more people are using it for their business, and this is really where I'm coming from, mostly, because I deal with a lot of small business owners. So one of the reasons is to be seen as an expert in your field. You can share your expertise, and this is a great way to get people interested in what you're doing. You have the power to talk about those subjects that you really understand and really know about. A thought leader might be slightly different. The two examples I'm thinking of at the moment for this, seen as an expert in your field, some of you may have come across a guy called Steve Pavlina, who blogs prodigiously. He's a huge blogger, and his is in the area of personal development. And just quickly, his story is that he started off, he was a real geek. He used to write software code all the time, but he'd got a side passion on personal development, but really, really personal, as in himself. And he used to do experiments, I think he still does, experiments. Things like changing his diet or changing his sleep pattern to see what was the optimal, and he would write about it. And at the time he did it to start with, he had no thought to make any money or to do this as his whole job. But because people found his blog and got interested in it, and then started commenting, eventually he built it up, so he then started promoting things on his blog, making money from it, and now that's his business. His business is in personal development, and going on from the blog, he now writes books, and he also goes out and does talks about it. So it was a bit of a long explanation, but to give you the power of why you should be blogging. A thought leader is maybe something slightly different. This is somebody who people look to particularly in a field, and the person I'm thinking of in this one is a guy called Seth Godin, who is a marketing guru, if you like to use that word. Now, the two people, Steve Pavlina and Seth Godin, have very different blogging styles, which is interesting when we come later on in the presentation, particularly about how much you should blog, how often. Steve Pavlina writes very, very long, detailed blog posts. They're almost mini novels. In some cases, he spreads them out over several weeks or months. Seth Godin tends to write just very short, pithy pieces. So one of the questions I'm often asked is, how long should a blog post be? Well, it depends on your style, and it depends on your audience. Because you can write something very short, and if people aren't interested in it, they'll still not read it. You can write something very long, as in the case of Steve Pavlina, and if they are interested, they will read the whole thing. Does that make sense to everybody? And you probably know that from your own experience. So, one of the things that we'll talk about is that there are really no rules, which is a bit scary, but it's fine. We'll work with that. Okay. A curator. Some of you may be curious about me putting curator, but that's somebody who collects things. And in this sense, it's somebody like Oprah Winfrey, who isn't really famous for being, well, she's famous for being Oprah Winfrey, but she's not famous for any particular talent. Her talent is bringing other people in and sharing their knowledge with the public. So why is that useful in a business sense? Well, if you can bring information in, if you can go out and find information that will benefit your clients and then share it with them, it doesn't have to be your information. So if you hold on to that thought, because sorry, I'm getting slightly distracted, but only by the GoToWebinar because people have got their hands raised, but I think that's okay. Now there was a question, but I'll come back to that in a second. Okay, so it's really good idea because people don't necessarily go out and find the stuff themselves. They'll be thankful to you if you can bring useful information to them. That's a little bit of what I do. I go and find a piece of software that will make be an easy way to make a graphics item, for example, a cover of a book or something like that. You know, if I come across a free piece of software, I'll put that on the blog. People will like that. It's not my piece of software. I'm not actually selling it. I'm not getting any money for that. But the fact that I'm directing other people to it gives me a bit of kudos as well. If you've got a business blog, you probably want to promote your business. That's probably one of the top reasons. And these, by the way, shouldn't be seen in isolation either. There's no reason why you can't be an expert in your field and promote your business. In fact, I think they do go hand in hand. You might want to sell stuff. That's a very technical term, but you might be selling something. In fact, if you're a business, you probably are selling something, either directly off the website, off the blog, or indirectly. But you might do it to raise money or support a cause. I had a client recently who is working with the Alzheimer's Society, and he's a semi-retired gentleman, and he wants to really just raise money for the Alzheimer's Society, and that's why he wants to blog. He has a particular talent, but the stuff that he will be promoting will be for the charity. Okay, so those are quite a few reasons why you should be blogging, but there are also technical reasons as well, because it makes your life easier. As you saw in Sanjay's testimonial for me, I run courses on social media as well. And one of the really important things I think is that you have you have your blog at the centre as the hub for all your social media. Because if you think about it, if you write a blog post, it can then, if it's set up correctly, automatically be sent to Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you want it to go. And automation is really good. The fewer times you have to do something, the better. So you don't write a blog post and then go on to Twitter and then go on to Facebook and LinkedIn. If it's set up correctly, it's a hub and it just happens. And because you've got that, that'll be one of the reasons why you get increased traffic to the site. You'll also get increased traffic because Google likes blogs. Probably these items are slightly out of order if I think about it now, but that the reason that Google likes blogs is because that the content is fresh. If you're updating it regularly, which is what you should be doing, if you're updating it, then Google keep coming back and checking. You will be writing about things that are appropriate for your business. So automatically you'll be adding in keywords and phrases that are associated with your business and that people are searching for. So we will talk later on about search engine optimization. Don't get too scared, because it's really simple. And ultimately, I think one of the aims should be to give customers and clients confidence in you, that you know what you're talking about. Okay, so let's have a quick think about all the things we need to think about in order to have a successful blog. And it comes down to the old journalism principle, the who, what, when, where and why. But I think the most important thing is that you start off with the why. So why you should blog, we've covered that. Defining your purpose and the types of blogs, which is what we're going to cover. Oh, that didn't work, did it? The who, I changed all my animations earlier, and silly me, I didn't double check them. I'll just tell you. So the so who in this case is your audience. So who you are in relation to your audience and who your audience are going to be. and put that in terms of marketing, it's who your ideal client is, because you should be writing to your ideal client. The what is what to write. You know, that's one of the big questions I get asked. What should I write about? I don't know what to write, and I don't have the time. When? How often you need to update it, and how to make it easier, really, how to make that bit easier. And then the where is where you're going to put your blog and how you're going to set it up for success. So I've talked for quite a while. Oh no, it's working. Silly me. Isn't that typical? So let's have some comments. What's your blogging experience? How many of you have already got a blog? Well, let's do that to start with. So just put your hands up. How many of you have already got a blog? Okay. So we've probably got about, roughly doing the maths in my head, about 2/3 of you already have a blog, which means 1/3 of you don't have a blog at all, which is interesting. Okay, so what's your, I suppose what I'm asking is, why are you here on the call? What are your barriers to making it a successful blog? So just while I have a quick slurp of tea, if you want to write in any questions there. Okay, so majority of you haven't really got started, so I'm wondering what is stopping you. I can probably guess, because I've done this with a number of people, and in fact that's one of the reasons why I'm putting on this webinar, is that, and why I ran the workshop a couple of weeks ago, is that I'm always being asked to set up websites with blogs, and then I go back and look at it 3, 6, 12 months down the line and people haven't blogged. So I started to think about what was stopping people. Okay, yeah, so it's about time. People don't have the time to do it, or don't see that they have the time to do it, and they don't know what to write. Yep, so there's fairly standard ones, and we're going to cover some of that. And also the other problem that people have is fear. You're frightened that you're going to put something up there and people won't like it, or you'll seem foolish. Who's had that fear? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And it's natural. It's being a bit vulnerable. You're having to put something out there and people might go, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about, or he doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, why did he write that? If you're going to blog, you've got to get over it. That's, to be honest, it's as simple as that. And the only way to get over it is to do it. So let's have a think about how we can get you started. So what I'm going to do to start with is talk about, because quite a few of you don't already have a blog, is the differences between the different platforms, because this is, okay, right, so WordPress.com and Blogger.com, they're free. That's the advantage of them. They're free, and there's lots of support. You know, it's not difficult to do things on there because lots of people are doing it. There are disadvantages. Disadvantages are it's restrictive. You can't, for example, sell things on WordPress.com. They're non-commercial sites. You can't put on a lead generation box, you know, where you put in your name and email in return for a free gift, which we might talk about if we have time. So for businesses, they're really not a good idea. The other problem is they're not under your control, and people don't realise this. Anything you put onto WordPress.com or Blogger.com becomes somebody else's property. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to use your material to go and write a book or whatever. What I'm saying is that if they don't like what you've written or what you've put on there, they can, without any comeback, just take the site down. They can just decide to close your account and you've lost all your material. So I would always suggest that it's worth paying a little bit for. The two paid for ones are WordPress.org and Typepad. Now, they're slightly different. You notice I've got WordPress in the free one and WordPress in the paid for one, and this is where people get confused. WordPress.com, it's hosted on their site. WordPress.org is where you download, or your web person downloads, the software that you then run on hosting that you own. So you might have an account with 1&1 or UK2 or Heart or somebody like that, and it's your website, and you can put WordPress from WordPress.org onto there. The other one is Typepad, and Typepad is also a hosted solution. It's somewhere else, and at one point WordPress and Typepad were neck and neck. In fact, I think Typepad was around possibly slightly before WordPress, but I think of it as being like VHS and Betamax, and that in the end WordPress is winning, hands down, I would say. But the advantage of both is that they've got more control and flexibility, and there's lots of support. You know, so you're not going to have problems with support and knowing how to do these things. Disadvantage, you do need a bit more technical know-how to get it set up in the first place, and there is a bit of cost involved in the hosting, etc. But I would always go for WordPress. I've been building sites in WordPress now for 3 years, and it just gets better and better. Okay, so any questions on WordPress or Typepad or anything like that? Yeah, that's a good question, Paul. Paul's asking, I keep talking about blogs and websites as being interchangeable, and to me they are, because WordPress and Typepad, for that matter, you can build whole websites, and to anybody coming into it, it looks like a website, which it is. So there are pages that are more static than the blog post, and the blog is the bit you're going to be changing more frequently, but that sits within the same space, almost at the back end of the main website. But in WordPress, it is all part of the same control. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Good. Anything else? Okay, so once you've decided on where you're going to put your website, there are some other things to consider. So look and feel. Now, this is where people get really, really finicky about things. If you get a chance, go and have a look at Steve Pavlina's blog at some point. Not now, don't stay with me for a bit longer. Because it is the most boring, plain blog in the world. It really isn't fancy at all. Got no fancy graphics on it. Excuse me. No fancy graphics, very plain, and yet he makes a full-time living from that. So I always say, don't get too hooked into the look and feel of things. It's got to be easy to navigate, it's got to be clean and clear, but beyond that, everything else is just icing on the cake. What you really need to do is to get the content right. To improve the functionality to improve how things work. WordPress particularly, they call them plugins, and they're little bits of code that make things even more useful. The great thing about WordPress is that it's what's known as open source, so there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people all around the world sitting probably in their little garrets writing bits of code to make WordPress even better. The vast majority of these are free. Vast majority. Now I'm usually asked at this point, how come they're free? Reason is it's either a hobby for somebody, or they can make little bits of code free to attract people to do bigger pieces of work with them, if that makes sense. So that's why. But it is really useful that there are these hundreds of thousands of people around the world who are making stuff for WordPress, because it makes my life easier. I don't have to write code. In fact, I can't write code really. I can re-engineer things or reverse engineer things, but I can't write code from the beginning, and I don't need to, because other people are doing that. And pretty much anything you want a site to do, you can do it through WordPress because of these plugins. I'm just going to mute a second because I need to cough. Hold on a second. Oh. Sorry about that. I think a slurp of water is in order. Okay, so that's plugins, if you've come across that term before. Really useful. And there are some things that make it much easier for WordPress to work well for you and to make your site successful. There are things that make search engine optimization easy for you, that make tracking what you're doing easy, but you need to know what those plugins are. Okay. And did you know that without some essential pages on your site, then Google will effectively punish you? And by punish, I mean that they won't come and look at your site as often, or they won't rank it as highly. Now, the essential pages, you need to have a terms and conditions page, you need to have a contact page, and you need to have a privacy policy. So there are 3 pages there, and if you don't have those pages on your site, then Google will not be happy, and we always want Google to be happy, don't we? Okay. Alright, so while you're digesting that, let's have a look at what somebody else has said about me. Because this is what it's all about, really. Vinay Palmer here has put that he got from me clear strategies to tie his online activities together. And he's kindly put, if you want someone to help you get it, then talk to Gene. That could be why the company is called Just Ask Gene. But that's what I go for simplicity, to try and make it so that, to take away all the mystique, if you like, the mystery out of it. Because essentially, things like Google, we want to make sure that Google is happy with us. And Google is just doing a job, and if we make sure that we make Google happy, then it'll come and visit us and our site will rank higher. And that's what we need it to do. Okay. So, one of the questions that was asked, or one of the barriers that people came up with, was that they don't know what to write about. Okay, this is one exercise that's it's going to be a bit tricky when we're doing it on a webinar, but I think it's a valuable exercise, and you can go away and do it, certainly. So if you want to make some notes on this, this is what you do. See, like my little hamster. It's not really my hamster, but I like that little graphic of the hamster in the wheel, and I tried to get it to rotate, but I decided I was spending far too much time on that, and it wasn't going to be worth it. So it's a little exercise for you, and it's called Speaking the Same Language as Your Customers. Now what you need to do is to find some of your customers, or at least people who could be your customers. So if you've identified that your target audience are women between the ages of 30 and 60 who have a family and a job, and they need they have time management issues, for example. So what you need to do is to either really find those people and ask them the question, or ask yourself the question pretending to be that person. It's much easier when you've got a group of people in front of you. Okay, so what you do is you say to them, what would you put into Google if you wanted to find me? If you wanted to find somebody to solve the problem that you've got. Now in our little imaginary scenario, we've got somebody who's run off their feet. They're trying to balance home and job and kids probably. So maybe let's say 25 to 45-year-old women who are trying to do all that balancing act, and they need help sorting that out. What are they going to do? What are they going to type into Google and find and look for? Because they are going to want to solve a problem. Now, the problem isn't going to be the service that you're offering. If I go back to Vinay, he used to work in corporate life, and in corporate world he was into change management and resilience, personal resilience and all this. Now he much more works with smaller businesses and individuals who don't understand personal resilience. So he now brands himself as the bounce back ability coach, but on his website he talks about things like coping with redundancy, how to manage when your relationship maybe is struggling with that. So it's those specific problems that he's addressing, and if you can do that, you can then start to write posts on your website that address those points. Has anybody got any examples of how that would work for them? I encourage you, I know it's really hard on a webinar to do, but I encourage you to think about this and to go and do it if you can. Get a couple of your mates and say, oh, come on. This is what I do. How would you find me if you didn't know me? Because whenever I do this in a workshop, it is very, very revealing, because people will not necessarily be searching for what you think they are searching for. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? Anybody got any questions on that? That makes sense, Liz, I'm guessing. Yep. Brilliant. Okay. So I do stress that would be a really, really valuable thing for you to do. So that should give you a list of different things you can blog about, but I want to give you some more ideas. And we're going to talk through this slide quite a bit. A nice and easy one. Top tips for. So, for example, one of my clients works with printing cartridges. So it might be top tips for extending the life of your printer cartridge. Top tips for creating a great blog post. Top tips for keeping your lawn in shape through the winter. You get the idea? And it's something you all know. If you really think about it, there are areas of your business where you can just go, oh yeah, well if I wanted to do that, then these are the things I would do. Write them down. Really quick and simple one. And you could probably come up with more than one for your business. You know, for my business I could do top tips for a great blog post, top tips for finding people, finding customers via Twitter, top tips for engaging your audience on Facebook. Okay. This is quite an interesting one as well. Create a list of things to keep in mind when buying your product or service. So, say for example, you sell fencing. Let's go for something really quite boring. I don't think my client who sells fencing isn't on the call, but I'm going to use her as an example because we did this exercise with her and it worked really well. Now, this goes back to the talking your customer's language. Now, I am one of her ideal clients, customers, if you like. I've got a very big garden that needed a fence. I didn't know her at the time, unfortunately, so I got somebody else. But this was the case. So I was able to speak from experience when talking to her about this. She would use words that I had no idea what she meant. Do you need this? I don't know. What sort of fence do you want? I don't know. So I worked with her and we came up with things that, for a start, a list of blog posts that talked about each of those barge boards. That was the thing. See, I can't remember now. But barge boards was one of them. Do I want concrete? Do I want wood? I don't know. I don't even know what a barge board was. I do now, just about. But also the different types of fencing. So she did blog posts about different types of fencing, the pros and cons, what height you can have, what materials, how the ground affected what sort of fence you wanted, all sorts of details that I had no idea of, but I might be searching for. I might want to search for longest lasting fence. You know, I want a long lasting fence. I know it sounds silly, but that's what people search for. Most people go onto Google to search for a solution to their problem. They're not, I hate to tell you, but they're not coming onto Google to try and find you. They don't know you exist. So you need to make sure that you're addressing their concerns, addressing their questions. So, create a list of things to keep in mind when buying your product or service. So for me, it might be, and I have done this, 7 things to consider when hiring a web designer. Because it gets people thinking about things they may not be thinking about already. Issues that you know because you've been dealing with them or people who are like them, they're, you know, your ideal client for enough time that you know what their concerns are, you know the questions they're going to ask. So another one that goes along with that is an FAQ. How many of you are always answering the same questions for your product or service? Does it do this? How long does that last? How often should I? Yeah? You know what people are asking, so that's another one. That's a bonus one because I haven't put that on this slide. Make a list of resources that your readers may find valuable. So this goes back to the point I was making earlier on. You know, be Oprah Winfrey, bring in people or things or software or books or courses that your readers might find valuable. You should know who your readers are. That's really important, that you know who they are. And so if you know who they are, and I don't mean you know their names, but you know you have a profile of them, then you know what they are going to find useful. If they like what you do, then they probably like X, Y, and Z. Okay. And the next one, customer success stories. You know, write about that successful customer. Put up your testimonials. Why? Because that is what they call social proof. If I go onto a website and I see that somebody who is like me has used a product and has got good service and has got good results, I am much more likely to buy it. It's a known fact. That's why things like Facebook, well, not things like Facebook, but when on Facebook people recommend somewhere, I bet you all do it, don't you? If one of your friends has been to a restaurant and said that they've had a great service, don't you go and have a look? You might visit there. That's a good idea. So use it. It will also enhance your relationship with your customer. Your customer will like the fact that you are using them and giving them a bit of publicity, generally. Sorry, I just had to have another slurp of tea then. Obviously you have to be a little bit careful and you have to get permission, and there are some instances, if you're dealing with medical issues or whatever, where it's, you know, you have to be sensitive. But it's a good idea to put testimonials and success stories up on your blog. Okay? It's a great one. You know how to do something? How many of you, come on, I need a show of hands. How many of you know how to do something that most other people don't know how to do? Yep. Yep. I can see that, James. And Anne. Yep. They're all, lots of people. Oh, yeah, and Liz. Yes, we all do. We all know something that we take for granted that other people just don't know how to do. So one of the really useful and quick and easy things that you can do is a specific step-by-step how-to. How to set up a Facebook fan page, in my case. How to cook a delicious breakfast. Delicious, nutritious breakfast. How to plan an exercise regime. How to knit a scarf. Yeah, we all know how to do these, so get it out there, get it out. And some people are worried that if you do that, if you put that on your blog, people won't buy your service. They will, I promise. Because some people, yes, will look at it and go, oh, okay, I know how to do that now. And they'll be pleased that you've given them something for free. So, you know, there will be some people who just go, oh yeah, okay, I know how to do it now, thank you, and you never see them again. But there will be people who look at it and go, oh, thank you, that's great. So I can do that now, but actually, can you do this for me? And there will be some people who go, okay, well, you've written, and I've had this happen. You know, you've put up on your blog post, this is how you do it, and I've put exactly how to do things. And then they've still come to me and said, oh, I can see that you can do that. Can you do it for me? Because not everybody wants to do everything themselves. So you need to sort of turn that on its head a little bit and think, well, even giving away stuff is a really good idea. Because it leads back to what we were talking about earlier on, which was creating that relationship, and also the giving customers and clients the confidence in you. Because if you can write that in words that they can understand, they know that they can then talk to you and will be able to understand each other. That makes sense. Brilliant. Okay. Just, where's that gone now? Things keep happening in GoToWebinar, so just excuse me a second while I have a look. Questions, there we go. That's okay. Nope, answered that one. Right, so, and the next one. Oh, this is a good one as well for some people. Providing templates of some kind. You know, if you're an accountant, can you do some sort of budgeting tool? An eating diary. If you're into time management, some sort of time management template. And, you know, just have a think about what you might even already give it away to your clients. If they work with you, you might give them something, a template of some kind to fill in because it makes it easier for them. Or consider giving that away free. Now, some things I would suggest you don't necessarily put into blog posts, but you have as giveaways that will build your list. But that's a different webinar, building your list. This is about blog posts, and you know, if you use a template for a blog post, then that's a great idea. Okay. So, and this is Andrea, who actually came to my workshop, which is an extended version of what I've done here, the other night, and this is what she's written. And actually, when we were talking in the workshop, she was saying that one of the things was about the eating diary and about exercise. And then we had somebody else who said, I know, the other person was a sports massage therapist, and for the template she said that she could do a diary which was when people noticed pains, what exercise they'd been doing and what pain they'd got. Just a way of recording things that made it easier when they went to her to work. So at this point, we'll take a little bit of a breather, and before I go any further, are there any questions there? So somebody's asking, okay, Anne. Yeah, Anne is asking about, I'll just go back to the slide before, a list of resources. Yeah, okay, and just read what she's put. Okay, so Anne has said, can you, if you list a resource, can you make money from that? And I'm guessing what she's referring to is having an affiliate income. An affiliate is where you say, I like this product, and provide a link. It goes off to a website. The easiest one to imagine is Amazon. So I might on my website recommend this book I'm reading, and there's a link to Amazon, but when it goes to Amazon, it doesn't just go to a normal Amazon page, it goes to a special link which has my code in it, and you can set that up through Amazon and a whole host of other affiliate programs. And if somebody then buys it, then I would get a little bit of money from that. So that's how you can certainly monetize resources, and that's what Steve Pavlina does a lot of. He recommends things like a speed reading course. I think you have to be ethical about it and only use things that you would actually want to recommend, not just because they're giving you money for it. But I'm trusting that you're all ethical. Yeah, and Liz, yep, that's right. And saying yes, definitely. And James, yep. Yeah, that's right. So you can use things like books. In fact, if there's any product that you've ever used and liked, search for the product and affiliate or associate in Google, and you'll probably find that they have an affiliate program to go with it. And it's just a case of signing up to it, and they give you a piece of code and you put it into your website. And then, as I say, you know, you can earn some income from that. We haven't got so much time on this one to talk about the monetizing it, because we're coming up to 8 o'clock now as it is, and we've still got quite a bit to go. But if you've got any other questions about that, that'd be great. Okay, so what I'd like to do at this point is to talk to you about program that I've put together, which I've called the Business Blogging Secrets Masterclass. That's what I look like, by the way. I'm a blue blob. No, it's not really. So what am I doing in this? And this is just, I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes explaining this to you. And this is if you want to get involved with me more. So what I'm going to be doing, and it's starting next Thursday in fact, is I'm going to do an in-depth masterclass on setting up a successful blog. So what will that consist of? Well, it'll be 6 monthly live webinars, each covering a different subject in depth. I'm sure you can appreciate with what I've done tonight that we've only been able to skim the surface. So these will go into things really deeply, and the whole point of doing it monthly is that you will get chance to put into action what we're talking about. So it's some of the topics to be covered. So search engine optimization, which we're going to do a little bit in a minute, but quick and simple ways to get your blog noticed. As I said, SEO isn't rocket science, but you do need to know about it. How to create or find more content that you could ever possibly need. Traffic generation, really important. Just linking everything together, you know, making sure it all works is really useful. And the right way to engage with your audience and get a following. So those are the topics I'm going to be covering. And the great thing about that, as we've done tonight, you know, you can sit in your bedroom or kitchen or wherever and access the webinar wherever you are, no travelling involved. Particularly, I think, great at this time of year with the dark nights and getting cold. But I'm also making recordings so you can get them, you know, go back and review them whenever you want. And the other point, which is useful for some people, is that once you've learnt it, you can apply it as often as you want. You don't just need to, you know, you could build more than one blog on different subjects and have mini blogs on things. So once you've learned how to do it, you can go back and you'll get lifetime access to the recordings. And each of the webinars comes with action sheets, checklists, mind maps, everything that you need to keep you on track. And the value for that is £480. That's based on the time it takes me to prepare and the time, you know, actually doing it. But I've thrown in some bonuses as well, because WordPress can be so clever in a way. There's so much that you can do with it. So there are 30 videos which cover every aspect of WordPress. Now, I don't expect that you will ever have to go in and watch all 30 videos. But, for example, number 27 there is how to add YouTube videos to posts. Now, one of my clients had to call me up in the week and we did a coaching call which cost him money. One of the things that he wanted to know was how to put YouTube videos into posts. Well, if he'd had these videos, he didn't need to pay me extra to do it. And so for those 30 videos, that's £97. And then there's another 25 videos which have only just come out. In fact, when I first did these slides just before the workshop, I'd only got the 30, but this is even more so. Things like how to quickly make your mobile site friendly, how to protect your posts from spam. So it's another £97 there. And then I will be and have been doing a monthly newsletter which only goes out to my clients and to the people who sign up for this, which is really all the latest information. You know, I spend a lot of time online finding things out that benefit my clients, and this is a way for me to share it. So all of that, okay, comes in at £751. But just I'm going to do a bonus for tonight, because I find that my workshops are really useful for people, and I'm running another one on social media mastery in November, but I run workshops throughout the year, and I currently charge £97 for each one of those. But if you're interested in working with me extra tonight, then you can get this bonus of priority pass to one of the one-day workshops. As I say, the next one's in November, but if you can't make that, there'll be others in 2013. And if you get registered tonight, all of that value is just £297. So if that's of interest to you, then if you go to www.justaskgene.co.uk/BBS Masterclass, that's justaskgene.co.uk/BBS Masterclass, and don't worry about going off and missing the webinar, because as I say, you'll get the recording. We've got a few things to carry on covering, but you'll get the recording anyway, and also you'll still be able to hear me. Okay, and you're not risking anything, because I've got a 100% money back guarantee. So I know that it's my mission to give really great value. So if you don't feel you're getting that great value after the first webinar, just let me know. I want you to be happy. I want you to spread the word. I get almost all of my work through word of mouth referral. So I don't want unsatisfied and unhappy customers. So if that's the case, there won't be any problem, no hard feelings, but you've got 100% money back guarantee. So if that's of interest to you, then as I say, justaskgene.co.uk/BBS Masterclass. Okay, so let's carry on with the rest of the webinar. And as I say, don't worry if you want to head off and go and register for that. One of the biggest issues people come up with is that they can't write. But I can't write. Who was told at school that they couldn't write? Just pop your hand up if anybody, any nasty teacher, and I was a teacher so don't worry about it, but any nasty teacher ever told you that you couldn't write? Yeah. Okay, I've got some hands going up there, definitely. I was told when I was at school that I couldn't write. What I found out when I was doing my degree was actually I couldn't write fiction. I couldn't make stuff up very easily. But since I went on to do a science and IT degree, it was probably a good job that I couldn't make things up. But I was actually praised for my writing because I was logical. So that's a bit of a story there. But anyway, so what happened? If you can't write, here are some tips. One of them is that you can go and find content. So find out what other people are writing about, what other people are finding useful. I'm not saying that you plagiarise, please don't get me wrong, don't think that you need to plagiarise anything. But if there is something, for example, in the news about an area that you work with, I know we've got a couple of coaches on the call tonight as well. So maybe your clients are stressed. Maybe there's an item in the news about the rise in workplace stress, or about the stress related to redundancy. Then you can write your version of that. You can respond to that. You don't need to come up with the idea in the first place because it's in the news. And the way to find out what's in the news is to use something called Google Alerts. And if you don't know what Google Alerts are, then what you need to do is go and Google Alerts, because it's a really clever way. You put in your keywords and it will send you an email telling you whenever that key phrase, and I wouldn't go for a word, but the phrase is mentioned in the news, in other people's blogs, on websites, and then you can go and comment on it, or you can do your spin on it. So if we get another report that the economy is down the pan and we're all going bust, and you've got a good news spin on that, then use that as a blog post. Just as a quick aside, I would say that you definitely need to have a Google Alert set up on your company name and on your own name. Why? Because if people are writing about you or about your company, then you want to know about it. But aside from those two things that are appropriate to your business and your service, that's what you need to put Google Alerts on. If you really can't write, you could consider outsourcing it. Now, you don't need to even outsource the whole thing. If you think, well, obviously I can write, everybody can write, but I don't think it's good enough, I don't think my grammar's right or my punctuation, then one of the things that you can do is get somebody just to edit it. It's not something I really like doing, but I do have one of my clients who sends me his blog posts and I just make sure the punctuation's right and it's got capital letters and full stops. And then I publish it, which is probably quite an expensive use of my time. Expensive way to get it done, sorry. But that's what he does. Or you can outsource the whole thing. There are places like People Per Hour, iWriter, that will write blog posts for you, and very affordably. You tell them what you want them to write about, the keywords that need to be done, and you can do that. So if you really can't write, but you might find that when you've got somebody who's outsourced some stuff, you can go and actually, you know what, I can. Because the thing we haven't talked about, and I think is really, really important, is your personality in this. It's coming across as you, which is why I sort of have a slight problem if something's outsourced, because it's not you. It's a bit like social media managers to me that manage your social media and send out tweets for you. For me, it's like going along to the party and pretending to be somebody else. But it's an option. So you can outsource stuff. The other thing that you can do is look for what's known as private label rights, PLR material. Now this is material that people have written and then they sell for you to rebadge it, if you like. You can do whatever you like with it. You buy the rights to it. So you could, one of my clients was a security company, and we found an ebook that somebody had written on ways to secure your house over the holiday period. And he bought this, I think it was something like $7, and just made minor changes to it to make it English for a start, because it was an American thing, and then gave that away. But the point is, he didn't have to come up with the idea in the first place. He didn't have to write it from the beginning. It was very minor editing. It's always very much easier to take something somebody else has written and repurpose it. So, and the way to find that is to put your subject in and PLR. Stress, PLR. Exercise, PLR. Nutrition, security, fencing. I think actually we even found a fencing guide, a PLR fencing guide. So that's one a lot of people don't know about. And the other way you can get around it is, if you don't like writing, are you better in front of a camera or just talking, just doing audio? Now the only thing I would say is, if you're going to do video blog posts or audio blog posts, get them transcribed as well. And the reason for that is that Google won't be able to read the video content or the audio content, but it will be able to read the transcript. And again, places like People Per Hour or even Fiverr.com, you can get people who would transcribe video and audio for you very cheaply, and then you can put that on your website. And there's a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk who built a multi-million-pound wine company. Well, it was a very small mom and pop company in upstate New York, and he took on the company and built the business up to be a multi-million-pound business. And all he did was to use YouTube, in fact, and video, and he did virtual wine tasting. Now if you can sell wine via video and a blog post, then I think you can pretty much sell anything. So if you ever want to have a look at him, but be warned, his language is a little bit fruity, is Gary Vaynerchuk. Okay, so that hopefully has gotten you over the "but I can't write." First of all, you can. Everybody can write. You're all intelligent people and you can all write, but you may need a little bit of help, so hopefully you've made a note of those. But as I've said, you will get the presentation again. What about having the time? I don't have the time. How many of you don't have the time, you think, to do blog posts? Yeah, Sarah, definitely. Okay. Not enough time, people are saying. Okay. The problem is we don't have more time, we all have the same amount of time, so it's how you manage that time. One of the big time management things generally I found with my business is to batch and schedule things. So batch means that I don't write my one blog post every week. I write 4 of them a month over a period of an hour or so, and then I schedule them to come out over the month. And you can do that, the technology is there to allow you to do that. It's a good idea to batch because you get into the flow of it. You probably find it's much easier to write several pieces, and they don't need to be masterpieces. You're not writing War and Peace here. To write several pieces over a shorter period of time, then keep going away and coming back, because then you don't have the time, you don't remember to do it. So I know pretty much the first Monday afternoon of every month I sit down and that's what I do, and it's in my diary, it's scheduled in my diary. I have ideas as I go along, so I make a note of those, but almost, if you're going to do this, you do need to make time for it, and you do need to make it part of your overall marketing strategy. You're making time to do other things that market your business. This is one of the things that markets your business. It's not a bolt-on, it's not a nice to have, it's something really that should be integral, otherwise there's almost not much point doing it. Another great idea is to have a blog calendar, and what I mean by this is that if you think during the year, there are set things that happen every year. Christmas is coming up. Christmas comes up every year. Most people get stressed about Christmas. Most people don't know. Most people put on weight over Christmas. So can you in your business think about some things that you could blog about in December that are appropriate for Christmas? There may be certain industry things that happen every year at the same time in your business. There are sites that you can go to that will tell you what every single day, certainly every week, but every single day has its own special title, if you like. Talk Like a Pirate Day. When I looked at this the other day, there was one in January that was something Penguin Awareness Day. I don't know why you had to be particularly aware of penguins on that day, but it just struck me as odd. But that could be a fun item. So just to give you extra ideas, so there's two things there in one, a blog calendar. One is making sure that you've got something each month, because ideally you will be writing something at least once a week. So you need 4 items each month to come up with. Now I've already given you some ideas about how-tos and step-by-step lists and customer testimonials and things. So you could, spread those out, do one of those a month. Then maybe you could think about what's coming up generally in the world. Is it Valentine's Day? Is it Easter? Is it the summer holidays? What do you do in your business that is appropriate to each of those things? And have a look at some of these fun ones as well. So a blogging calendar is a really good, because then when you sit down to write it on the first Monday afternoon, you're not staring at a blank page, you've got ideas, and it's just a case of filling those ideas in and doing a bit of research. So hopefully that makes it easier. So then the big question, and this is one I got asked earlier on, how do I know I'm not writing into the ether? It feels like I'm just writing into the ether. It feels a bit like that at the moment, that I'm talking into the ether, but I can see hands going up and a few questions, so I know you're still with me. Okay, brilliant. But who will read your blog post? Okay, so the way to get people to read it is to get traffic to the site. So how are you going to do that? Well, here are some ideas. I've already talked about social media. If you link it all up, you will get people coming to your blog because of social media. make your Twitter say something more exciting than new blog post. Top 10 things to reduce stress this Christmas, and then your blog post link. People will go. Something called an RSS feed. Now, don't worry too much about it. Just know that you need to have one. WordPress gives you one automatically, so you don't need to worry about that too much. One of the other things you can do is to go and comment on other blogs. So you work with people who will go and buy other things as well, or go and be interested in other things as well. So go and find out what those other blogs are and go and make comments on their blogs, because most of them will allow you to put your web address in it. So do that. You add to discussions, comment on what people are saying. That will drive traffic back to your blog. Guest blogging. I've done this recently on my accountant's blog because I did a guest post on social media blogging, which has brought some traffic back to my site as well. So where can you link up with people who have got similar clients to yours, or not similar services, because you don't want to be in competition. Complementary ones. That's what you need to do. So if you've got a list and your newsletter, then you'd be sending people back to the blog from that. Simple things like your email signature. Do you have your blog address on your email signature and everything that you send out? Because you should have. And then there are things like article marketing, video marketing, and let's not forget, come offline from time to time and just networking. Is it on your business card? Is there a reason on your business card for people to go and have a look at your website? So there's some ideas there. There's loads and loads of different ones, but those are probably some of the top ideas. And then we're just getting to the end now. So the thing that I haven't talked about yet is the dreaded SEO, and I feel like I need a bit of a drum roll at this point. Do, do, do. Okay, because people get really, really worried about this, and people feed off this fear sometimes and try and sell you stuff to do your SEO. Promise to get you on the front page of Google. And it's both not as complicated as they tell you and slightly more complicated than they tell you. But there are things you need to think about. So when you do any blog posts, this is like your checklist of things that you need. So you need the phrase that people are searching for. Remember, go back to that customer experience. Things that people are searching for, you need that in the title. So let's go back to a stress-free Christmas. 7 steps to a stress-free Christmas. So that would be your title. Now, this is a bit technical, and I put this in because somebody asked me particularly about permalinks. Permalinks just means that your URL, the web address, looks like a proper web address. Like mine down there, BBS Masterclass, it doesn't have, as you sometimes see, a question mark and numbers and squiggles and things, because Google will read that URL as well. So that's all a permalink means, and that can be set up easily. That's just a setting in WordPress. You've got things like categories, so that might be stress relief or holidays that I'm talking about. Coping with holidays might be, coping with a family might be. I don't want you to get the idea, by the way, that I have a stressful Christmas, because I don't. I just know that lots of other people do, so I'm using that as an example. There are things like tags, so how you tag it. And tagging is just literally a way of saying, this post is about this subject. And it can be about many things. So it could be Christmas, it could be tagged Christmas and stress and family. Okay. You need to make sure that your images are tagged as well. And then links. Lastly, links. Now, I'm always being asked whether people need to put links on their own site out to other people's sites, whether that's a good idea. generally it isn't. What you really need are links coming to your site, especially from authority sites. So if you're on any industry website and it links to your site, then that would be a good one. The ultimate would be if you could get a link off the BBC, for example, because that's a big site, it's known as an authority site. That would carry a lot of weight with Google. And also internal links, so linking between stuff within your website. So in my example about stress over Christmas, maybe I put I've got something which is stress-free present buying. I don't know, I'm just making this stuff up now. But I'd link within it to go to the other blog post. Does that make sense? So we've covered an awful lot of stuff there, and I hope you found that useful. Jenny's saying her head's hurting. Yes, I'm sorry. But don't forget, you can always go back and have another look at this. And I've tried to put as much as I possibly can within the time. But obviously, it's not everything I know about blogging. We don't have time for that, which is why I've developed this program for you. And just a reminder there that if you wanted to take advantage of that you get all the live webinars and the recordings and everything, all the videos, 55 videos. I forgot to mention, I think, that there's a little ebook I put together which is 101 content ideas for your blog. So that'll get you more than one a week that you could use, and that's included in there as a bonus. And that if you sign up for tonight, you get a ticket to my next, or to one of my workshops, and the next one is in November. So if you do want to go along to that, I'll just go back to just a quick recap of that. Clever. So, and that's just £297, and we're starting next week. So you don't have to hang around for this. It's going to happen straight away next week, and that's at justaskgene.co.uk/BBS Masterclass. Now we're just about on time. It's just coming up to 8:25. If you've got any other questions, then please pop them in the chat for me. And if you want to go, that's fine. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Take care. Bye.